This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jackarich. Israel and Hamas started a ceasefire in Gaza on Friday that appeared to be holding shakily, with no major reports of bombings, artillery strikes or rocket attacks. Although both sides were accused of violations, the first pause in a 48-day-old war began at 7 a.m. 0500 GMT, involving a comprehensive ceasefire in North and South Gaza. The release of 13 Israeli women and child hostages by the militants later in the day, and aid to flow into the devastated Palestinian enclave. A number of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli prisons were to be freed in exchange. Lebanon's Al Mayadin TV reported that no sounds of bombing were heard in Gaza since the start of the truce, but it said Israeli forces were preventing residents from returning to their homes in the densely populated northern part of the enclave. Soldiers opened fire in one incident, Al Jazeera said, but there was no indication that it resulted in casualties. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli military, which had earlier issued a call on Palestinians to stay away from the northern Gaza Strip, which is described as a dangerous war zone. Sirens sounded in two Israeli villages outside the southern Gaza Strip, warning of possible incoming Palestinian rockets. An Israeli government spokesman said Hamas had carried out a rocket launch in violation of the truce, but there were no immediate reports of damage. Fighting had raged in the hours leading up to the truce, with officials inside the Hamas-ruled enclave saying a hospital in Gaza City was among the targets bombed. Both sides also signaled the pause would be temporary before fighting resumed. Taiwan's opposition parties, which seek closer China ties, registered separate presidential candidates on Friday after a dramatic split, potentially easing the way for the ruling party, which has defied Beijing's pressure to stay in power. The January 13th election is taking place as China, which views Taiwan as its own territory, steps up military and political pressure to force the island to accept its sovereignty claims. The opposition, Kuomintang, and much smaller Taiwan's People's Party, TPP, both campaigning to forge better ties with China, had agreed to work together against the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, but made no progress on plans for a united presidential ticket. China, which has framed the election as a choice between peace and war, believes the DPP and its presidential candidates are dangerous separatists and has rebuffed offers of talks. Late Thursday, the KMT walked out of the last-ditch talks with the TPP held in front of reporters in a hotel conference room and shown live on television. After failing to reach agreement in one of the most dramatic moments, the KMT's presidential candidate, Hu Yuhee, read a private text message from TPP candidate Ko Wen-jae, in which Ko and Gu needed to find a reason to drop out of the presidential race. Hu and Ko both announced their running mate on Friday morning. Hu chosen the fairly media personality Joy Shokong, while Ko from the much smaller TPP selected one of its lawmakers, Cynthia Wu, whose family is a major shareholder of the conglomerate Shinkong Group. Workers and activists across Europe plan demonstration against U.S. e-commerce giant Amazon on Friday, aiming to disrupt its warehouses and prevent merchandise from reaching Amazon parcel lockers on one of the busiest shopping days of the year. On Black Friday, the day after the U.S. Thanksgiving holiday, many retailers slashed prices to boost sales. Originally known for crowds lining up at big box stores in the U.S., the event has increasingly moved online and gone global, fueled in part by Amazon, which advertises 10 days of holiday discount this year from November 17th to November 27th. In Germany, Amazon's second biggest market by sales in 2022, workers at 5 fulfillment centers in Bad Hersfeld, Dortmund, Koblenz, Leipzig, and Rheinberg will go on strike for 24 hours from midnight Thursday to demand a collective wage agreement, trade union Verdi said. More than 1,000 workers at Amazon's warehouse in Coventry, England, strike on Friday, according to trade union GMB, as part of a long-running dispute over pay. Trade unionists are also organizing a demonstration at Amazon's UK headquarters in London. Amazon's parcel lockers are also being targeted. Many Amazon shoppers use its lockers, which are located in train stations, supermarkets, car parks, and street corners, to receive their orders. Italian trade union CGIL called for a Black Friday strike at the Castel San Giovanni warehouse, while Spanish union CCOO called for Amazon's warehouse and delivery workers to stage a 1-hour strike on each shift on Cyber Monday, the last day of Amazon's 10-day sale. Make Amazon Pay, a global campaign coordinated by UNI Global Union, said strikes and protests would take place in more than 30 countries from Black Friday to Monday. Germany's economy shrank slightly in the third quarter compared with the previous 3 months. Data from its statistics office showed on Friday. The figure confirmed an initial estimate published in late October that saw Europe's largest economic shrink by 0.1%. After the weak economic development seen in the first half of 2023, the German economy began the second half of the year with a slight drop in performance, said Ruth Brand, president of the statistics office. Germany has been among the weakest economies in Europe this year, as high energy costs, weak global orders, and higher interest rates have taken their toll. In the second quarter, Germany's economy had grown by 0.1% after stagnating in the first 3 months of the year. Adjusted gross domestic product (GDP) contracted by 0.4% year-on-year in third quarter. Private consumer spending, which accounts for about 2/3 of GDP, was 0.3% lower than in the previous quarter. The statistics office said government consumer spending increased for the first time in more than a year by 0.2%, it added. The Bundesbank said in its monthly economic report on Monday that the German economy will likely shrink again in the fourth quarter and show signs of slight improvement early next year. Irish police guarded looted stores and firefighters cooled down smuggling vehicles in the heart of Dublin city centre early on Friday after the stabbing of 3 young children sparked a night of rioting rarely seen before in the capital. Police blamed far-right agitators for starting the violence after a small group of anti-immigrant protesters arrived at the scene of the stabbing attack beside the main thoroughfare of O'Connell Street and clashed with police. It took officers several hours to regain control after the crowd grew to around 200 to 300 people. A double-decker bus, tram, and police car were burned out. Public transport shut down and people urged to stay away from large parts of the city. Dublin Fire Brigade said firefighters continued to damp down a smoldering tram on O'Connell Street on Friday morning and make the scene safe. Public transport resumed, but with restrictions in the area. Barricades were still up across some streets, and police stood guard outside a Foot Locker store with broken windows that was looted during the riots. The front of a Holiday Inn hotel that was also targeted was boarded up. Police said on Thursday that they have not ruled out any motive, including whether it could be terror-related. They would not comment on the nationality of the detained man. There are no far-right parties or politicians elected to parliament, but small anti-immigrant protests have grown in the last year. The government is reviving security around Parliament after a recent protest trapped lawmakers inside. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on all our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Friday.